Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. You got a couple minutes until our official start, so I'm just going to give people some time to join us, as well as make sure everything is streaming properly here to YouTube and that the audio is coming in fine. All right, just so you know, this training lasts about an hour and a half, maybe an hour 45 if things are loading slowly. Some of the drop downs I won't be able to show properly just because the streaming software doesn't handle all of them very well. I'll try to point those out as we go through. We do record the training, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can always come back later to the channel, watch the rest of the recording. In fact, we record all of these, so you can see all the past recordings as well, or get the links and share them to other staff members that need to be admins on your Dash account. If you have a question, feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature here, and I'll address the questions as they come up. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So on the page here, you see our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can get there from the virtualpbx.com site. Up towards the top, you'll see a blue bar. There's a login link there, and it will take you here. I do recommend bookmarking this page just to make your life easier in the future. To log in, we need your email address, your password, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. If for some reason you don't have your password, for example, or you just simply forgot because like most of us, you probably have too many passwords, down here towards the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, we have a forgot your info link. If you click on that, we still need your email address. And then we need one of the two following pieces of information. So either the account name, right, company name, or a phone number that's on the account. And that phone number should be a phone number that your customers call to reach your business. All right, then you click on reset password. The system will send you an email. There'll be a link in that email. It gets you logged in and allows you to change your password. After you change your password, and that's basically all it allows you to do, it will log you back out. So then you can retype in your password here, and then you have the option to click on Remember Me. Let's go ahead and get signed in. Now, I'm logging into a test account that I have logged into many times. So by default, it's sending me right here to my dashboard page. On your accounts, the first time you log in, it's going to take you to your account page. And how to get there, even if you're not on, like later on, it's not your first time logging in, you just click up here to the top of the page and click on your name. Window pops up. This is where you would change your own password, right? You don't like the password we created for you, which is understandable. You can just come in here, type in your new password, confirm it, save changes. Now over here on the left under settings, you have your account level settings. The most common thing that's changed here is the time zone, right? So that way you're in the proper time zone for your business. Now this is a test account, so I don't have everything that you have. On your accounts over here, back on the left, right, where it's under settings, so under account, under user, there'll be a billing section. That's where you would update things like your credit card, right? You could see your service plan. You could update who your billing contact person is, right? That's the person who is getting your invoices and who has actual control over the account. And you can also see previous invoices. Now that first time logging in, the Dash wizard pops up with little pop-up boxes telling you what things are. When you're done in this area, just click close over here to the top right, and then you'll be back to the dashboard. And on that first login, the Dash wizard is going to pop up here on the dashboard page, It comes up again on the users page and on the groups page. Now, so up here at the top, again, you can click on your name to always go back to that account page. For most of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a Dnd toggle for do not disturb, right? Lets you click on it, and then you're not receiving calls, right? Calls are going to voicemail. The reason my user does not have it is because my user is part of an ACD queue, which is an upgrade feature. The do not disturb toggle and ACD queues do not work well together. They can cause problems. So once a person is added to ACD queues, the Dnd toggle is removed. All right, now to the right, I have the little question mark icon, right? Help icon. Opens up a little sub menu here. Chat with us. This opens up chat window, usually on the bottom right corner of your browser. It allows you to chat with a support representative so they can walk you through setting up various features. Learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you to their support pages. So you can look at the written guides with screenshots of the various features. Some of the guides also include videos. Online store opens a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you could buy things like a VoIP phone. The web phone may not always show up, and in fact, it only shows up after you've added a web phone to a user. When you have done so, you'll have this option here. This opens a new tab that takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. That page uses your dash login information, and if you're using Chrome or Firefox, you could then use the browser to make and receive calls. One thing I should point out, we do recommend when accessing Dash, and most of our pages for that matter, to be using either Chrome or Firefox. All right, we got the 3 horizontal line icon here, sometimes referred to as the hamburger icon or simply the menu icon. This takes you to other Dash features. Some of them are plan specific, meaning you would need to make sure you're on the correct plan to access that feature. I'll make sure to point those out as we go through them. For the most part, most of our training here will be in the dashboard. That's the lion's share of where we're going to be, but we will touch on most of these others. And then lastly, that logout icon. All right, down here in the middle, total users. These are people on my account who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis. So I'm paying for each of these users, right? Typically speaking. Then I have total devices. I have 29 devices, and then a breakdown. Now, Dash was designed with VoIP phones in mind. If you don't already know, VoIP, right? That stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. All it means is using your internet connection to make and receive calls. All right, so my first device type I have listed here is a soft phone, right? That's a software application that acts like a phone. Traditionally on computers, but these days, because cell phones are so powerful and are, fairly powerful computers in their own right, you can have a soft phone application on a computer or on a tablet as well as on a computer. The soft phone will include the VirtualPBX soft phone app or anyone else's app under this particular heading. Right? Next up, we have the web phone, right? The Chrome or Firefox. Technically, it's a subtype of soft phone. This was developed later. As far as I know, this is not charged for on any account right now. So it's just a free VoIP phone you can add to your accounts. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. A SIP phone is a physical phone, right? So it sits on a desk. You can pick up the handset and dial out, right? SIP is a kind of VoIP phone, right? There's several different protocols that fall under the general VoIP heading, right? SIP being one of them that we are compliant with or compatible with. So when you're out shopping for VoIP phones, you want to make sure the phones you're looking at are SIP compatible or SIP compliant. Down here, I have unregistered devices. This is actually in reference to those physical VoIP phones, right? The SIP phones. And it's saying that they're unregistered. And what that means is we can't send calls to it. Now, we don't know why. The system just knows, hey, I can't send calls to this device. It's not connected to us. That could be a phone's not plugged in, right? Or that could be they're having an internet outage. Or it could be, someone just moved and they're still getting their network set up. Next up, I have, I clicked on the wrong thing. All right, total numbers, right? These are your numbers on your account. These are your customer-facing numbers. Once the dashboard reloads. There we go. Now, most accounts include anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. It's going to vary depending on your account. And if you go over that, you can, right? You can add extra numbers if you want to, but then you'll be charged per number per month. For the specifics of that, you'd want to contact our account services team. They can let you know how many phone numbers are included with your account and then what the overage would be if you go over. We have a breakdown here of assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial it and speak to somebody or be sending a fax or join a conference or get to a voicemail box. Spare number counts towards your allotment. You're simply not using it right now. Maybe you're about to expand into a new market and you already got phone numbers in that local area, right? So once you open up, you can just add those numbers and make use of them. Maybe you just had a Mother's Day promotion just end and you don't want to take calls about that promotion anymore since it's no longer valid. So you put it in spare number. Right. Next breakdown here, we have USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a local US number, right? So say a number in Chicago, Illinois, or a number you have in San Jose, California, etc. You can have international numbers on your account. If you're interested in adding one, you're going to need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. If that country has further requirements, they will let you know what those requirements are. Once we get that documentation, we then can get you that number, typically speaking. Down here, we have conference bridges. This just means I've enabled 2 of my users, right, because I have the number 2 over here to the right, to host or moderate a conference. Now, towards the top right here, I have my main numbers. These 4 phone numbers all behave in the same fashion, right? So they're all going to the same location on my system. And for instance, they would all play the same main greeting. You can obviously have multiple main numbers if you so want. Conference number. Oops, did not mean to do that. I am way over clicking today. All right, conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. This number is what everyone dials to get to the conference rooms, whether they're your staff members, your clients, your vendors. Everyone dials a number. They'll be prompted to enter in the conference room number and a PIN number. Fax box number. You can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. The company directory. This allows you to download a CSV file, shows everyone's extension number and their names and their primary device. The soft phone directory is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You download this file, you then upload it to this VirtualPBX soft phone app on your computer. And this will allow you to see the status of the other soft phones on your account. So if everyone's using a VirtualPBX soft phone, you could see if they're on a call or not. Right now, if you have people who have a mix, right? So let's say my colleague Jeff has a Yealink phone and a soft phone. Well, I could tell when he's on the soft phone, but I have no idea what he's doing with the Yealink phone. All right, store discount code, just for being a Dash customer. You get a discount code for use in that store.virtualpbx.com link. And then lastly, here we have your account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, it's used to program a third-party soft phone application, right? So let's say you're going to use XLite from Counterpath. This is one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program that to provision or program that application to work with us. The other things the realm is used for is to send a fax out. On Dash, to send a fax out, it's actually just you create an email. Right? So create an email like you normally do. In the to field of the email, instead of putting your cousin Bob's email address, you put the plus sign, the number 1, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the little @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. Right? The system does not look at the subject line. It does not look at the body of the email. Right? It's looking for the to field, the from field, and then the attachments. Now, the system is only going to send out one attachment, so you want to make sure that there are extra attachments that you get rid of them before you click send, like your signature file. And then, as I said, it doesn't look at the body of the email, so there's no point in typing in the body of the email. If you need a fax cover sheet, you need to actually include that as part of your fax document. All right, towards the top here, we have your caller ID, which is actually your company caller ID. So this pull down, you can select any of your main numbers. Right, that becomes your default phone number for several different things. Then the company caller ID name, this allows you to input 15 characters. That includes spaces and special characters that we would transmit as part of your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. Now, in order to update this entire form, however, you need to also fill out your company emergency information, or E911. Right? Wants a North American address here. So you can fill out the company name, your address, you click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, the company caller ID name information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them roughly 3 business days to update their databases. Some are faster, some are slower, but 3 business days is typically when they should all be updated. Some things to know about CNAME. There are carriers out there who do not support it, which means if we route a call through them, your CNAME information does not reach your destination. Because so many people have cell phones, your CNAME information may not show up when you call cell phones. That is because the cell phone carriers, they control what shows up on the displays on the cell phones on their network. Some of them want to charge their subscribers to have that CNAME information show up all the time. Right? So I looked at this on my carrier a couple of years ago. They wanted an extra $10 a month for CNAME information to show up on every call. I decided that was not worthwhile to me, so I have not paid it. But it's going to vary from carrier to carrier. All right, next up we have hold music. Now, hold music on Dash is defined as after a call has reached a user, and then the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That is when this hold music file will play. On Dash, you can upload your own media files. You can upload, and the system will play back .mp3, .wav, and .wogg, or sorry, .ogg, not no W there. You want to make sure the file is recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that it's under 1 megabyte in size. All right, you would click on the little browse button to find the file on your computer. Click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, then you would click on Save Changes. And that would become the default hold music for all of your users. Now, hours is part of main number, so let's just go to main number, work our way down. All right, main company numbers, right? So these are those 4 main numbers that we were seeing earlier. Now, any place you can add a number, you'll typically have the option to add from spare numbers, right? So the numbers you already have in your account but you're not using. You would click on the little checkbox and add selected. And now it's here. You can also buy numbers, which basically is saying adding new numbers, right? So if you haven't reached your allotment, when you buy a new number, you're just adding to your account. You're not going to be increasing your bill. Now, you have the option here for local and toll-free. Toll-free, You choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. Realize that 800, right, almost always going to return a message saying that there's none available, right, because that's the original toll-free prefix. Those have long been exhausted. So you're probably want to search one of the others. Well, you'll find many. You choose the ones that you want, right? You don't have to choose one at a time. You can choose several here. So click add next to the number. It's added to your cart. It shows the number again, and you have the option to remove it from your cart, or you just click on by numbers, which adds it to your account. And in this case, it's adding it directly as a main number, right? Like I could add it directly to a user, a group, any number of places. Now, local is a little bit different in that you need to know the area code you want to work with. So if we choose 310, which is in Los Angeles, and again, we get this message saying that there's no numbers available. That indicates that this area code is exhausted. Typically, your best option is to look for or look up an overlay area code or a nearby area code. All right, so 223 is nearby, and you can add a number there. Now, if there's an area code that you absolutely have to have a number for, you can email our porting team, and they can attempt what's called a back order. And what that means is we put a request in saying, once a phone number in that area code becomes available, meaning someone gave up that number, we try to acquire it. It doesn't mean that we will, but we're going to try. This also means that we cannot give you an ETA on when it's going to be available, because again, we're waiting on someone else to say, I don't want a phone number in 310. Also, for phone numbers, you have a little gear icon here. So you can update the individual caller ID, so each outbound CNAME for each number, as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME, right? So that way your staff members can see the name of the people who are calling them. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address. This is helpful because then you can assign your VoIP phones to different phone numbers. So that way each VoIP phone has the correct address it's associated with, so that when people dial 911, emergency services go to the correct address. Prepend is for your VoIP phone users. You can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your VoIP phones, and this gives your staff members a heads up about what kind of call they're about to get. Now, let's say I don't want to use all these numbers any longer as my main numbers. I can just click on assign next to a number. Now, when I click on assign next to a number, it's not removed from my account. Right? All I've done is just put it in spare status. So I can assign it someplace else, right, to use it for another purpose. All right, next up, we have the office hours strategy. By default, new accounts are set up at 24-hour open office, meaning your system's ready to take calls. If you're not set up for that, you can then choose to be on custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of the day. And then in these boxes to the right, you just set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option down here at the bottom to say the system closes for lunch, right? Everyone goes to lunch at the same time. Put a little check mark here, and then you put your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time. And then any changes you make, you click on Save Changes. Office holidays, first up, are you closed for holidays? If you are, put a check mark here. Then to the right, you have the option to add holiday, single day, date range, or advanced. Right? Each one creates a new row. Oops. Single day, like I have here for New Year's Eve, you give it a name, you choose the month and the date. Right? Save changes. Date range, like for Xmas break, again, name, start date, end date. Save changes. There's no year indicator, so we do recommend to not have a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Right? That's why I have them separated out here. And that's just to prevent any potential system issue that might crop up. Hasn't in a long time. All right, advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving, where I choose the month, and then in this middle pull down, it's 1st through 5th as well as last, and then the day of the week. Right, so 3rd Thursday of November, we're always on Thanksgiving break. All right, so now we have incoming call handling. Right, so for those main numbers, I believe I'm at 5 right now. And then I have the sub-tab for my open hours. How do I want those calls to be handled? Right. During my after hours, how do I want the system to handle the calls? And then during my holidays. Right, now the basic options are the same. So call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a link. Helps if I click on it. And here we have where you set up your virtual receptionist. So your main menu, right here on the left, this is what people press on their phone to navigate through your system. You click on Add Route, it creates a new row. This pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. All right, and then this second pull down, this is where you select where that option is going. Right, so up here, Smart PBX directory, the dial by name directory, user directory. Right, users, that means you're sending when someone presses 1, you're sending it to this specific person. So it'll ring their devices and or get to their specific voicemail. If you're making use of call queues, you can have a menu option go to one of your queues. Devices, you can send calls to a specific phone. This isn't always recommended because if that phone doesn't have its own built-in voicemail or answering machine, the call will just keep ringing until the incoming caller either hangs up or someone eventually answers that phone, which could be frustrating for your customers. Media file, this is where you would play some sort of announcement, right? So press 1 for directions, right? And then a greeting file would play, giving directions to your location. After that media file finishes playing, the call is ended. Next up, we have groups. These are departments. So like your front desk group, right? To speak to an operator +1 sort of thing. Advanced call flows is if you're making use of submenu options, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. And then lastly, voicemail boxes. Greetings, this is where you would set up your greeting options. First up is text-to-speech. You can type in your greeting here. You have up to 250 characters, not words, characters. Sometimes you can get a little over that. I've gotten up to, I think, 300 once, or a couple times actually. But 250 always works. This will create a greeting that's a computerized or robotic voice. The system doesn't allow you to name the file. It just calls it, in this case, main open hours, right? Because we're in my open hours. Menu TTS, right? TTS for text to speech. So if I come back in here like a day later and I make a small edit, it doesn't get rid of the original greeting. It just now I'll have 2 files that say main open hours menu TTS. My recommendation is when you first make use of text to speech greetings, go to your Greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly, find that file and rename it to something that will help you identify it later. The text-to-speech, there's no charge associated with it. That's usually something I recommend for either startup businesses or people who've never used a PBX system, right? You're just trying to figure out how you want your system to work still. Upload your own file. Choose the file on your computer, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. Choose from an existing recording, so things you've already added to the account. This pull down will show you everything on the account. It doesn't work well with the streaming software. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, this particular option, as a security feature, wants you to only use a VoIP phone on the account. right? So you've added a VoIP phone, you can pick up, dial your main number, enter PIN number, and record. Now, if you want to use a cell phone or a landline, you can do so. But first, under Settings, you want to look at this one here, Allow Outside Recording. You want to turn this on, then click on Save and Save Changes. So this will allow you then to call in with a cell phone or a landline. And then you can enter in the PIN number, which is going to change for each account. So you can record your greeting over the phone. If you're new with us, right, so you don't have a recording in place already, the system, when you call your main number, will prompt you, right? And so you'll get a message saying, no greeting has been set up for this menu. If you know the PIN number, please enter it now. You enter the PIN number, it walks you through recording a new main greeting. If your account has been established with us, right? So you already have a file in place that's playing, but now you want to update it, right? You want to change it to your voice or your friend's voice, what have you. When you call in, you'll hear the existing main greeting play, right? You can still enter in the PIN number. The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording over the phone. When you do it in that fashion, right? So you already have a file in place. So greeting A is playing. When you record over the phone, the system replaces greeting A with your voice, right? With that recording. So the original greeting file A, the content is gone. You've just overwritten the file with the new content, right? But the file name stays the same. That can be an issue, especially around holiday times when people may rush to record a new greeting over the phone, and then they lost their normal greeting that they use for non-holiday times. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you can use their service to order a greeting from one of their voice actors and actresses. They have several different options to choose from. I encourage you to read through it if you're interested in that. They deliver it to you via email. And then you would simply just upload your own file. All right, settings. These first two are somewhat related or tied together, right? So number of retries on missed dial and dialing timeout. All right, so number of retries on missed dial is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. The dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, right? So say the inbound caller calls in, they listen to the greeting and they press 7, right? So that's not one of my main menu options, and I don't have an extension number, 7, right? So system says, okay, that's not a valid option. It waits to a count of 5 to make sure the inbound caller isn't trying to enter an extension number, right? So 7552, right? But let's say the customer only presses 7 and nothing else. After that count of 5, the system says, oh, that's what they meant. They meant 7. Double checks, right? Says, okay, no menu option, no extension. They get a retry. So then it replays the greeting. The inbound caller presses 8 the second time. System waits for a count of 5. No additional button presses. Says, okay, now you've already used your 1 retry. If there's a default action, it will send the caller to the default action. If I remove that, if there is no default action, then the system will end the call. It will play a message saying we did not recognize your entries, and then say goodbye. All right. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. So that simply means when an inbound caller comes in, if they know the extension number and they enter it in enough, quickly enough, the system will just transfer them to that extension. Right? If you turn that off, then even if they know the extension number, the system won't recognize it. It will treat it like a mistry and reread the greeting and expect the caller to press a menu option. Oops. And then lastly, we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. So by default, the system will, at the end, will say, we did not recognize your entries and end the call. If you don't want the system to say that, then you would turn this on. All right. Any changes to your main menu, your greetings, or the settings, you need to click Save here. You'll be taken back to your incoming call handling page, and then you need to click Save Changes here. and now all your changes have taken effect. All right. The second option, this is a live operator answer option, meaning this first pull down, you can select who the call gets offered to, right? So I can send calls to a specific person, right? One of my users. I can scroll down. I can send it to a call queue, which means I can be sending calls to multiple people. I can send calls to a specific device, right? A specific phone. And after 20 seconds, the system would then send it to the virtual receptionist if no one picked up. Scroll down. You can send it to a media file. I don't recommend this because this can be confusing, right? Because what happens is the media file plays. When it's done, the system sends it to your virtual receptionist where you would likely have a main greeting played there. So now you have back-to-back greetings playing to your customer. That can throw them off. Just depends on what they're used to or how much you need to say in your messages. You can send it to a group, right? Again, multiple people. Or you can send it to one of your additional attendants. So like in this case, calls come in during my open hours. It's offering it to my front desk ring group, right? So multiple staff members, they're not able to answer it. Then it goes to my virtual receptionist. Now, we're still in their open hours. So this virtual receptionist link is the one we were just looking at. All right, third option here, you're offering calls to, again, a user, a group, a queue, a media file, a device, etc. You also have the additional option of simply go straight to voicemail. The second pull down is choose your voicemail box. Right, so you can offer it to a person and then go to a specific voicemail box, or just simply send it to a voicemail box. Now, these other tabs, right, after hours and holidays, right, have their own settings. So the virtual receptionist for them would be different. Right? You'd have different menu options, likely a different greeting, etc. So under my open hours, I can have calls go here, right? Go right to my virtual receptionist, greeting, menu options. During my after hours, I can instead say have calls goes to my front desk ring group. If they don't answer, it goes to my after hours auto attendant, where again has different greetings and different menu options. Right? And then for my holidays, I can say, hey, we're just closed. Send them straight to voicemail. Don't bother trying to ring anybody. This fourth option is to send calls to your secondary auto attendants. Right? This would only apply if you have multiple auto attendants on your account, which is a plan-specific feature. And even then, generally not used very often. Your main conference number, you can add from spare or buy new, so you can have multiple conference room numbers. You can choose to have a custom text-to-speech greeting, right? 250 characters, and then click save. Even without a custom greeting, the system will play a message, right? It would say, welcome to the conference, and prompt the inbound caller to enter in the conference room number and then the PIN number. Main fax box number, you can only have the one. So if I didn't have one here, you'd have the options to buy new or add from spare. Once you've added a number, you can click Edit Fax Box here. And then you've got two fields. First is the inbound notification email address. Right? We just put an email address in here, or multiple separated by a comma. Then click on Save Changes. That means that this person, whenever inbound fax comes in, they get an email, right? So they're saying, hey, you got a new fax. There'll be a PDF attachment that they can then double click on and view the fax on their computer. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, right, they hear those fax tones and they hang up, right? They dialed the wrong number from their cell phone. These people will still get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt, right? Because the system, right, registered a call to the fax box number. So someone was trying to fax, but then they hung up, right? That's a failed inbound fax attempt as far as the system is concerned. Now, if you were expecting a fax, right, then you'd want to double check with the person sending a fax to see what happened. Their fax machine may have given more information about what kind of error code they have. and we can go from there. The email permissions field, this is for your outbound faxing. It's designed for you to put your emails or your company email domain here. So that way everyone at your company, right, who's got the same email domain, they can send a fax out via your Dash account, but they don't have to be a user on your Dash account. They just need to know the proper format. So any changes, you click on Save Changes. All right, auto attendance. So this is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's on some plans and not others. This allows you to create multiple auto attendants. Couple use cases here. The first I've mentioned already, submenuing, right? So if you want one for English, two for Spanish, you would then create an English and Spanish auto attendants with their own greetings, right, in the appropriate language, with the menu options going to English-speaking staff members or Spanish-speaking staff members, respectively. The other use case is if you own multiple businesses, right? Each of those businesses have their own main number and their own main greeting, but your staff members between your multiple businesses answer calls for all your businesses, right? So you have a dog walking business and a cleaning business, right? Two different phone numbers, two probably very different greetings, but your same staff people are answering calls for both businesses. This would allow you to do that. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number, right? The extension number is for internal use. Your customers will hardly ever need it. And then you would click on Create Attendant. Once you've created an attendant, if you click on its name, you have this, it defaults to being unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, right? So designed to operate on its own, not as part of your main system. If you click on this toggle here and now make it available in main menu, right, now it becomes an option to be part of your main system, right? It can show up under your call routing options, right, under the advanced call flows. Attendants can have their own phone numbers. They can have multiple, right? So you can add from spare and buy new, right? You got the little gear icon here. So you can update caller ID, E911, etc. Here's the extension number. If you're going to change an extension number, I usually recommend adding the new extension number that you're going to use. Click on Save Changes. Click on this box again, and then click on Assign next to the original extension number, and then click on Save Changes. Then you have the little wrench icon under Settings. And here you see you have open hours, after hours, and holidays. This matches the settings that you set up under your main number, right? So that means these auto attendants have the same availability as your main system. So you can't have one business be open 24/7 and the other business only open on Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Right? To do that would require either a custom configuration or it might be simpler to have two separate accounts. But beyond that, it's still your virtual receptionist. So it's a link, right? You set your menu options, add routes, you set up your greetings and the settings. Any changes, click Save, and then Save Changes. Devices shows your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered. Black means you've turned it off. And green means it's registered, meaning we can send calls to it. Up here at the top, you can click Add Device. And first up, we have the SIP phone. This is that physical phone that you can touch and feel. You have various manufacturers. Some have a lot of phones, some not as many. You want to find the make and manufacturer of the phone you're going to work with. You put in the name, right? I usually say the person's name and then the word phone, so like Bob's phone. And then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device, typically a sticker on the back. If the phone's plugged in, also usually under like its basic settings or its status, you'll find a heading for MAC, M-A-C. You enter that information in here. You click on Create Device. And then after that, as far as the dashboard is concerned here, you just need to assign it to a user. You're not done, however. You need to log into the phone's web user interface, right, the web UI. You need to enter in a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. Once it does that, it's going to reboot usually a couple times, and then it will show up as a green device. For the specifics of what to do for these various manufacturers, you want to go to our support pages. You're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots for these various manufacturers, the proper URL syntax for the URL, usually a couple other settings to verify. But the main thing is that it has screenshots of the phone's UI, so you know where to go and what to look for. Cell phone and landline are pretty much the same. You put in the name, and then +1 area code and phone number. You click on Create Device. Let's add one here. I didn't. We'll create that. It's going to scroll me down. I can click on the wrench icon here under Settings. Right, so you can always adjust the name, or if you need to change the phone number, you can do that under Basic. But we're going to Advanced Options. This is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline. So when Dash offers a call to a cell phone or a landline, right, the phone's going to ring. Right, when you pick up, you're going to hear a message from the system saying, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you're ready to take this call. And then connects the call to you. You begin speaking to the other person. Right, so it's a way to let you know, oh, this is a work call, right, just by hearing that forwarded message. Now, let's say you actually added a quote cell phone, and the number you put is actually going to an automated answering service to handle your after-hours calls. Well, that automated answering service can't press 1. It doesn't know how to. It doesn't know when to. So what you would want to do is here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, put a check mark in front of that. Click on Save Changes. So now when we send a call to this phone number, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? There's no message saying about pressing 1. We don't wait for that 1 tone. We just hear pickup, we connect the call. That's great for your automated answering service. Now, if I did this on my actual cell phone, what could happen is my cell phone voicemail could pick up. Right? Let's say I didn't answer the call for whatever. Let's say I'm driving. Call gets offered to me. I'm like, nope. I need to drive. I don't have a safe place to pull off. So my cell phone voicemail picks up. I have this checked. So that means the system Dash hears that pickup tone. It connects the call. So that inbound caller ends up on my personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that. Some people do not. The other thing that comes up is this keep original caller ID. Right? By default, it is on. And what that means is when Customer Mary calls into the system on my cell phone, I see Customer Mary's phone number. I don't recognize it, and I've just had 5 calls about extending my auto warranty. And I'm like, I'm just going to let it go to voicemail. Maybe I'm able to reconnect with Customer Mary later. Maybe I'm not, and I lose the sale. So what I could do is uncheck this. So now, when Customer Mary calls on my cell phone, I don't see Customer Mary's phone number. Instead, I see my main number. And let's see here. Uh-oh. Let's... Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Oops. All right, so when I turn off that keep original caller ID, the phone number I should see is my main number, right? The 323 phone number. All right. Soft phone on the devices page, or actually whenever you add a soft phone, you should read this message so you understand it. But on the devices page, when you add a soft phone, you're only allowed to add a third-party soft phone, right? So if you want to add the VirtualPBX soft phone, you need to go to the users page and add the soft phone directly to a user. And then you'll have the option to add a VirtualPBX soft phone. But this is if you're going to use, say, XLite from Counterpath. You give it a name, you click on Create Device, you copy and paste the SIP username. In the SIP password, you click on that box, you copy and paste that. You don't want to change it, right? Then you copy and paste your realm information. You use those 3 pieces of information to program or provision your soft phone application. All right, the Greetings Manager, this shows all your media files on the account. Source, right? You have upload, meaning you upload the file. TTS, that means text to speech. Notice I changed the name of that one here. And then recording means you recorded it over the phone. You can download these files so then you can listen to them on your computer. And that way you can tell if they're relevant or not. And then the little wrench icon here, this is where you would change the name or simply remove the file, right? You can add files up here at the top, right? Give it a name, find the file on computer, .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded mono under 1 megabyte, and then click on Create Greeting. Groups, short for ring groups or hunt groups. Right, usually departments. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number, right? Now, each group, you can't reuse extension numbers, right? So if you've given your users extension number, 1000, you can't make a group with extension 1000. You'd have to give them a different extension number. And then you just click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. You click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can always click on its name, right? So you can change the name at any time. All right, that's basically internal use. And then you have group call attempts. Now, there's little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease that. And that's just how many times the system is going to offer calls to members of the group. Under the members box here, now we see my staff members in the group. Along the top here, right, these are timestamps. You can enter in the total ring time here at the end. The default for a new group is 120 seconds, right, 2 minutes. Now, in groups, your routing options are somewhat limited, right? So you can ring in order like I am doing here. Now, these are sliders, so I can click and drag, right? So I can adjust the length of when people are ringing. Whoops. Right, so I can do something like that, or even, right, so now I have 2 people starting right off the bat. I could also set up what's called blast ringing, so it rings everybody. Right, now for your group members, the only control they have is if they have the Dnd toggle, right? Otherwise, once they're in the group, they always get calls that come to the group will be offered to them. If your staff members have multiple devices, right? So they have a Yealink phone, they have their cell phone, and let's say they have a soft phone, all on their user. Any call from the group that's offered to them, it's going to ring all of their phones. Now, this distribute, right? That allows you to let calls ring in order. If you want to change the order, you can click and drag people around. Now, the order hasn't been adjusted yet, right? Because David here is still at 0. But if I click distribute, now Paul is at 0. So he's the first call that gets, first person that gets offered a call. Right, you click remove if you want to remove somebody. Down here, bottom left, click add to add someone new to the group. right? And then I can click distribute and it'll readjust the time. Groups can have an extension number, right, to transfer calls to. They can also have their own phone number. Now, this phone number, right, on groups and on users or anywhere else, right, because it's not a main number, nor is it an auto-attendant number, it does not have hours of operation, which means the number is available 24/7. Right, and then you have group features. First up is ringback. So by default, when a call comes into the group, right, gets offered to the first person or first people, right, when the system then hears the ringing sound from your users' phones, that ring sound is passed back to the inbound caller. If you don't want them to hear that ringing sound, then you would make use of the ringback feature and then upload a media file, right, .wav, .mp3, .ogg. So that way a different, like you can have music play, right? You can have a message play. If for some reason we don't get that ringing sound from the user's devices, then nothing will play. You'll just get silence. Doesn't happen very often, but just something to be aware of. Next action is probably the most used feature. It's when you enable it, if no one picks up a call, right? So no matter, like, calls get offered twice to your staff members, no one is able to pick up for whatever reasons. You have this drop down. Where do you want to send the call? Right? You can send it to your main menu. You can send it to any of your secondary attendants that are available in main menu. You can send it to your call queues. You can send it to a specific phone. You can send it to another group or a staff member or to a specific voicemail box. And then save changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, you're just letting your users make use of call forwarding feature built into their phones. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. This allows you to put text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their VoIP phones. Gives them a heads up about what the call might be about. Right? So like if this was an emergency support number, right? You could put 911 in front of it as a caller ID prefix, so that way your staff members are, oh, someone's, has a big need for support for some reason. All right, numbers starts off on your numbers in use. This just shows you where your numbers are assigned, right? You can't unassign a number here or anything like that. You can adjust the little gear icon, right? So the caller ID, E911, and prepend. But that way you can, if you're looking for a specific number, like where is it currently going, then you can see like this is a little person icon. So this is a number assigned to this user. So I could go to the users tab to then unassign the number if I need to. My spare numbers tabs, these are the numbers I'm not using currently. Now, if I want to get rid of a number, right, let's say I'm just like, oh, I don't need this number anymore. I put a check mark in front of it, and now I have this option to delete. Click on confirm the deletion, continues, and now it's removed from my account. So now I saved money on my bill. You can add additional numbers here, right? So port buy number, local, toll-free. And when you buy it here under the spare numbers tab, that's all you're doing. You're putting it as a new spare number. Then you can assign it later to wherever you need it to go. Port, this will port a number into your account, meaning you're moving it from, say, AT&T to VirtualPBX. You click on new port request, you give it a name, choose local or toll-free. Now it wants you to upload a copy of your bill, and then you confirm that it's within 30 days. It will then ask you for the address or it asks you for what numbers you want to port, your address that's associated with the account with your current carrier, so like with AT&T. It will ask you, give you opportunity to download a blank letter of agency or LOA, as well as then upload a completed and signed LOA. We'll ask you like when you want the port to be completed and the email address for notification. and then 4 checkboxes that it wants you to make sure you read and understand, and then check mark in front of them, and then you click submit. After you click submit, if it completes successfully, you'll get an email right away saying, hey, you've submitted a port request. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team, which will tell you that a person has actually looked at your port request and submitted it. Ports for local numbers can take anywhere, on average, actually take about 2 to 3 weeks. Toll-free numbers, typically 3 to 5 business days. In both cases, that presumes everything is correct, right? There's no rejections or anything. For the letter of agency, it's going to ask you for company information, like your name, the company name, and the address. That should match what your current carrier has on file for the account. It does ask for a signature. A digital signature is fine, or you can print it out and sign it manually and scan it back in. Simply typing your name twice will result in a rejection and a delay in getting your port to complete. In terms of getting rejections, we don't always get specific information, right? We'll get, at very least, we'll get something like, address mismatch. They won't always tell us that, oh, the street number was wrong or the zip code was wrong. Sometimes they do, but not always. We'll double check to make sure there wasn't an typing error, right? Once we verify that, no, it matches what we have, then we have to basically send you that response saying, hey, we got this rejection. Can you double check what it should be, right? That means you typically have to contact the current carrier to find out what they have on file, really. And normally it should match what they have on your invoice, but not always. Users tab. This shows your users on the account. Little gray person icon is a standard user. Person with the blue suit, system admin, right? They can do all the things we're talking about today. Up here at the top is where you add a user. First and last name, pretty easy. The email address used for login has to be unique for each user, right? You can't reuse an email address. You create a password for them, and then you enter in the extension number, right? The system is going to suggest you an extension number. You can type in whatever you want. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, you create a user, and then you add a VoIP phone to that user. They can pick up their VoIP phone and dial *98. That will take them directly to their voicemail box that you just created for them. The system will prompt them to enter in a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as to record their voicemail box greeting. Here's your option to be included in the company directory, the user directory. You can always change that later. This third one here, send emails to an alternate address. So let's uncheck that real quick. By default, the email address used for login, that's what the system sends notifications to, right? So voicemail notifications would go to the email address used for login, password resets. If your user doesn't want emails to go to that address, or you as an admin do not want them to get emails at that address, then you would send emails to an alternate address and put in a different email address here. And you can always change that later. And then here, send credentials to the user. I think that's important. That's up to you. If you only need to create one user, then you would simply just click on Create User. Otherwise, you click on Create User and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change their name. If you click on Change Credentials, you can change their email address or their password. You also can resend them the password reset email so they can change the password themselves. You can change the voicemail box PIN number temporarily, like the person forgot. Here's your option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory or not. This pull down over here to the right where it says user, that's where you change a person to become an admin or an admin to a user. This is the time zone for the user, so that's important for the time stamps for voicemails, for example. This is the display language, English, French, German, or Russian, basically what the dash web page is displayed to this user. Ringing timeout, measured in seconds. This is how much time the system will offer calls to the devices on the user. 20 is typically plenty for a landline or a VoIP phone. If someone's primarily using a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to 30 to 45 second range. And that's because it simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than to, say, a landline, right? When a call goes to a landline telecom, right, the landline telecom company is, oh, it's right here. We know exactly where it is. Send the call through, right? Call goes to a cell phone provider, say, hold on a second, we have to find them first, right? Ping cell phone towers, find you, then sends a call through. That delay, right, finding you, is why you need to have a longer ring duration for calls going to a cell phone. Users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Right? Just add an extension number. Users can have their own phone numbers. Again, just like in groups, this phone number doesn't have hours of operation, so it's going to work 24/7. You can add from spare, buy new, so they can have multiple phone numbers. You can unassign it if you don't want them to have it anymore. And then the little gear icon for caller ID, prepend, etc. Devices, you can add devices directly to a user, right? SIP phone, cell phone. Let's go to the soft phone, get that warning message. So here on the user, once it loads, looks the same except right down here at the bottom, right? It defaults to use third-party application. You can click on that. Now it says use VirtualPBX application, changes the page. You give it a name. Right, and then you click on create device, and then you would click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, Aaron's going to get an email with his login information for the soft phone, as well as download links, right? So then he can download and log in and then make and receive calls from the soft phone app. Then we've got user features. Caller ID number, right, only works with a user that has their own phone number. This will become the outbound caller ID for that user's VoIP phones instead of the main company number. Right, virtual text. This is our new feature for new accounts. Basically, you turn it on. You select either a phone number that's assigned directly to the user or one of your main numbers or auto attendant numbers. Then you click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, this user gets an email saying, welcoming them to the virtual text app, where they can send and receive texts to and from that number. Virtual text allows you to share numbers between users, so that way you have multiple staff members, checking on texts that are coming into your main number. I would check our web pages for the virtual text information so you can see all it can do. There'll be a YouTube video, I'm sure, or a webinar soon about that feature as well. If you're an existing customer and you don't have this feature, you're going to want to talk to our account services team about updating your plan. Voicemail feature, then by default, it's disabled. It has voicemail to email enabled, meaning that when this person gets a voicemail, we send an email with an attachment, right? MP3 file, they can double click and listen to it. Transcription is a plan-specific feature where the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out as best as it can into the email notification. If there's a lot of background noise or people aren't speaking into their microphone, then the accuracy of that transcription will suffer. Right? Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, the voicemail box is full and can't receive more. So you also have the option here to delete messages from the server once that notification email is sent. What that means is your staff member can only check their voicemails via email, right? If I leave this unchecked, that means My staff member can call in and listen to their voicemails. They can view their voicemails via the user portal and listen to them and delete them there. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. So let's go here. Right, so when you first enable it, it looks like this. Right, it's enabled, but no devices are going to ring. When you uncheck it, you're telling the system which devices you want it to use. Right, so if you have 5 devices, you can have 2 selected and the other 3 not. Just like in ring groups, you can change the order, click distribute, and adjust the total ring time. And then click on Save Changes. Fax Box, users can have their own Fax Box if you want them to. All right, if you click Enabled, then you have the option, do you want them to have their own Fax Box number? Right, so add from spare, buy new, that's recommended. That way this person can send and receive faxes. If you choose to assign a new extension number, right, that means a second extension number for this user, specifically for their fax box, but that means they can only receive an inbound fax. Because whenever they try to send out, the system's going to look at their user features, say, oh, if they have a fax box, use that extension number as their outbound caller ID, which is typically not enough digits, so then the fax would fail. Conference Bridge. When you enable conferencing on a user up here at the top, then you just need to create a PIN number for them. Click on Save Changes. They can update their PIN number via the user portal. Excuse me. Call forwarding, off, on, or failover mode. So your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own, right? They can do so via the user portal. They can also do so via feature codes on their VoIP phone. Failover mode is something an admin has to set up. What failover mode is if their normal VoIP phone becomes unregistered, right, turns red, and a call happens to come to the user at that time, failover mode will send the call to this phone number that you designated. All right, +1 area code and phone number, and then click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. When you first turn it on or first enable it, it looks like this. Right, so you haven't actually enabled any call recordings because you need to let the system know what kind of calls to record. Inbound internal means a coworker call, right? Someone else on the Dash account. So say Aaron called David, right? 2 users on the same account. Inbound external, customer Mary called. Right, outbound internal means David called Aaron back. Right, outbound external, calling customer back, calling customer Mary. And then Save Changes. Now every account includes some amount of storage as part of your monthly plan price. And then there's an overage if you go over it. For specifics, you'd want to double check with account services team. Obviously, if you just recently signed up, then you can look at the pricing page. It will have that information there. Music on hold. Users can have their own on hold music. You can upload your own files, .wav, .mp3, or OGG, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. This would supersede the hold music you set up on the dashboard. Do not disturb. If you enable that, that means calls to this user aren't going to be offered to their devices and will typically go to their voicemail. Hot desking is a VoIP feature. You click enable and then you give a hot desk ID. Up to you if you want to include a PIN number, and then you click on Save Changes. This is for like hybrid scheduling or shared office spaces where people may be switching desks from day to day. So today's Tuesday, Aaron comes into the office. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone. He hits *11. That turns hot desking on that phone. It will prompt him for his hot desk ID. If, as an admin, you require a PIN number, then it will prompt him for the PIN number. And then calls will be offered. The calls that go to his user will be sent to that phone he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the handset, hits *12 to turn off hot desking. Next time he comes in, someone's already sitting at desk number 2. He says hi to Felicia. He walks down to desk number 11. Same thing. Picks up the phone, hits *11, hot desk ID. Now calls to him will ring at that phone. All right, voicemail boxes. This shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything in this with entries in this third column here, those are your user voicemail boxes, right? So they are created with the user. Anything that has a blank, that means it's either the main voicemail box, which the system creates automatically, or a voicemail box you created manually. Right? You can do so up here. Create a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number. Click on Create New Voicemail Box. You would do that for like your ring groups or your call queues, right? Where you don't want voicemails for a department to go to a specific, person's voicemail box. Now, you can click on the wrench icon next to any voicemail box. So you can double check the voicemail box number and the PIN number. That way you can record a greeting for it over the phone or check the voicemails for it over the phone. Under Advanced Greeting Media, you can upload media files to a voicemail box directly instead of recording it over the phone, or select a pre-existing file. Now you've got two options here, media and temporary. Media is the default file, right? So as long as nothing is selected in temporary, the media file will play. Once you select something in temporary, right? This is for that out of office or vacation voicemail greeting. The temporary file plays. So if you have both selected, temporary plays. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But for any voicemail box you create on your own, then you would want to click here where it says Add New Recipient and enter an email address. Now, if you only need to add one, you click on Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, you would just click on the Add button again and enter in the next email address. Once you have added a recipient and a media file, right, a greeting message, then you can click on Already Set Up. Down here, it's up to you if you want to delete after notification as well as the attached emails. If you have transcription available, then you can choose to do that here. Announce Only mode is an option, so that way you have a voicemail box that just gives out a message, right? It won't accept any new voicemails. So like it's good for like hours of operation or directions where you want to give out information, but you don't want those voicemail boxes to ever get any inbound messages. Advanced routing. This is for direct inward system access, or DISA. This feature allows you to call into your system with a cell phone or a landline, right, and log in over the phone. And then you can make an outbound call. When you make that outbound call, it won't be your cell phone number that shows as your outbound call ID, but your main number. Now, this feature is not enabled right away on new accounts. That's something you have to request with our account services team. But once it is, then you click Enable, and it automatically creates a PIN number for you. Now, set like this, you could then set DISA up as a menu option under your virtual receptionist or your auto attendants. That is not recommended. Right? What you want to do is click Edit Settings here, click Add Extension, and then give it an extension number that's not part of your normal series, right? So this system started off with extension 1000. I would want my DISA extension to be something different, right? So I made it a 4-digit extension number that's not part of any normal sequence for my account, right? Now, this extension number should something only my staff members know about. So then you call into your main number, that rings the virtual receptionist. You enter this extension number. The system will prompt you for the PIN number. Then you'll hear dial tone, so then you area code and phone number and make your outbound call. right? And again, instead of your cell phone number showing up, right, this main number shows up as the outbound caller ID. So that way your personal cell phone number isn't getting out there to all your customers. Now, the reason for that recommendation of having the extension number is if we get rid of the extension, right? So if you have it as a menu option, someone will eventually find that out by accident, right? Some people just fat finger it, hit the wrong extension number, and then they're prompted for a PIN. Now, if you get those people who are inclined to do bad things, they'll say, well, let me see if I can try to find out this PIN number. Once they do, then they can start making outbound calls on your account and you wouldn't know about it. Now, one way to potentially find out about calls on your account is on your call logs. So here, for instance, you see outbound calls, and this tells you, right, that this was a soft phone on account. So I know it's a legit call out. Right, I don't have to worry about it. Right here, I have an inbound call coming here, and I can see which device it went to, and that the staff member didn't answer the call. Now I can download this as a CSV file. I can also look at this current week's calls. So here we can see call came in, offered to this device, but the user was busy, meaning they were already on a call. So that's why they weren't able to connect. You can go back for this current month. And then you also have custom where you can enter in the date range. Right now, you can always download these as a CSV file. So you can, especially if you're good with spreadsheets, you can then manipulate the data and get more information out of this. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. So if you need your call log information for compliance reasons, you probably want to do it every month. If you have very heavy call volume, you may need to break it down by week in terms of the search and then the download. Feature codes. I've alluded to a couple of these. These are basically ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. This information is also as a web page on our support pages. There's also on our support pages a PDF called Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which has this information as well as like a brief, like one line about how to use it, the particular feature codes. All right, so that was all the dashboard. Next up, we have Blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from accessing your system. Right, you would click Edit Blacklists. So you can click on an existing list to add to it. Otherwise, you would just click Add up here at the top. When you create a new list, you give it a name. And then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? Right, meaning there's not valid inbound caller ID. So if you turn this on, that means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, the call is blocked. Right, leaving it off means you're letting the calls through. Beyond that, you would click on Add Number. And then just like you see here, actually this one is incorrect. So this one, the 408 number here, that's correct. You have the +1 area code and phone number, right? No spaces, no parentheses, no dashes, right? Without the +1, it probably will not block. You can click on Add Number to keep adding more numbers until you're done. Then you would click on Save Changes. You would go back to Settings, and you want to make sure your lists are here on the right under Selected, right? So these lists are active, right? If I click and drag, now only this block list is active, whereas the new BL list is not. And then I would click Update. All right, call recording. So generally speaking, for most accounts, when you click on call recording, it's going to open a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. which just requires your dash login information to log in. And that's where you would view and listen to your recordings as well as remove them from the account. If you have high call volume and you record lots of calls, you're going to want to look at integrating with AWS, right? Amazon Web Services. That way you can link your AWS account to your Dash account and have AWS handle your call storage. And once you do that, when you go to call recording, you'll see your stored calls here on the AWS site. Monitor. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Right? So this is a test account, so everyone's available. Right? But you have their devices or their or themselves, who's available, who's busy. Right? Doesn't matter what device they're on. You'll see what their status is in terms of incoming calls, etc. Right? Active incoming calls would have its own set of boxes here. If there were active calls, showing who they're going to and what device they're using. Parked calls, if there's parked calls, it would show up here as well as their parking spot number. Reports is actually the advanced reporting feature. So that's a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create your own reports, possibly more useful than the call logs, depending on what you're doing. Unfortunately, the screen software won't go to that web page from here, but under our YouTube channel, we have a video advanced reporting demo that you can view what can be done with reports, as well as on our web page. Voicemails, this is an included feature. This lets you get to any voicemail box on the account as an admin. And then you can see their messages, the date, the time they came in, if they've been listened to or not, the phone number that they dialed, the duration. You can play it back. You can download it. You can see details. As an admin, when you click on the box in front of it, you have the option to move a voicemail to a different voicemail box or change its status. Integration AWS, that has to be turned on to integrate with Amazon Web Services. But this is the configuration page where you would have to add this information. Oops. ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. Basically, you can have multiple staff members take calls about the same topic, right? And the system will handle multiple calls at once. You have more routing options than you do with the ring groups. So to create you would click Add New Queue. I'm just going to click on the gear icon here. You give it a name. Now, queues can only have a phone number or an extension. They cannot have both, right? Groups can have both, for example. But both for both groups and for queues, right? They can still be a menu option off of your virtual receptionist. Queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down doesn't work properly, but round robin will equalize out over time. You have most idle, so whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Most or least calls, so least amount of connected calls. Least offered, which is the combination of completed and missed calls. And on standard queues like this, you also have ring all. We also have ACD Queues Pro, which is more expensive. The ACD Queues Pro just does not have the ring all option. For accounts can only have either ACD Queues Pro or standard ACD queues. That's why I can only show you one. However, on the YouTube channel, there is an ACD Queues Pro demo that you can look at to see that some of the differences more clearly. Hold treatment on standard queues, you can upload a file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg. On the pro queues, you can have multiple media files play, right, in different sequence. You can also announce like the position on line or their expected wait time. Queue timeout measured in seconds, right? How much time the inbound callers can wait on hold. The queue call limit, how many people you're allowing to wait on hold. If you set this to 0, that means there's no limit. And if you do put like a digit like 4, for example, that's on top of who's already speaking to your staff members, right? So if I have 5 staff members logged in and all 5 are on calls, 4 more people can be waiting on hold. Timeout immediately empty. If this is enabled and a call comes in, I have no staff members logged into the queue, the system will treat that inbound caller as if they already hit that 3,600 seconds. The escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds is hit, where do you want the system to send the call? Choose from your pull downs here, right? Users, groups, other queues, main number, or main menu, etc. A 0-out call flow after timeout. If you select something here, that means you're giving that inbound caller the option to press 0 while they wait on hold. And then if they do, this pull down is telling them where you're sending them. Agent behavior. First up, we have agent recovery time measured in seconds. Usually we see 0 to 30. Right? So after a call is done, the system will not offer an agent a call, in this case, for 15 seconds. Right? After that 15 seconds, call comes in, the system will offer the call to that agent, assuming the routing option is set to go to that agent. Force away on missed or rejected. So if an agent misses a call, then the system will automatically mark them as away, right? And that means that agent has to mark themselves ready again in order to get calls. And then an agent connect timeout, 20 seconds is the default. Currently in queues, you can only accept calls with a VoIP phone, right? So a SIP, that physical VoIP SIP phone or soft phone or even the web phone. So 20 seconds, typically plenty of time. Then over here, the little person with the headset icon, right? Click on that, that's the members icon. This is a list of people on my account who are available to be in a queue. It doesn't mean they've been assigned to a queue yet. It just means they are available to be assigned. Click on Manage Members, right? That list now moves to the right, right? So these are my queue members. The people here on the left, they're on my account, but they're not currently assigned to be in queues. You can click on their name and then click on the little button here, add them as a member. And now that changed to 10, right? So now that agent is a person is available to be in the queues. We go back to the queues page, click on a queue. We see I have an agent logged in. I have an agent link down here. I can move some of these other staff members over, and I would click Save Changes if that had come up. Likewise, you can click on Managers. Once you have agents assigned, the assigned agents, you can then move over to be a manager. Now, for your staff members, once you assign them to queues, right, they'll have the link up here to get to the queues. Here, let's log out real quick. All right, so your staff members, they would log in via the web page, get to queues, they click on Begin Session. Now, the system will default them to be not in ready mode. That first time they log in especially, or anytime they have a change to their VoIP phones, then you should click on the little phone icon here and make sure they select their device, right? You don't want to leave it on select all. That can cause problems, so you want to make sure you have a specific device selected. Click on the phone icon again, and now mark yourself as ready. And now I turn green, so now I'm ready to accept an inbound call. When I go to lunch, right, I mark myself away. That means I'm not going to be offered calls. I'm still in the queue, right, but I'm not going to be offered calls because I've marked myself away. And then the end of my day, I click End Session. And now I'm logged out, and I won't get calls either. Dynamic caller ID. This is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create different rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So we'll click this one here, 408. And what I've done here is whenever my staff members dial a 408 phone number from their VoIP phones, the system will automatically change their outbound ID, or caller ID, to this 408 phone number, right? And I just named it 408 for reference. Pretty easy. This other one here puts a little bit more work on my staff members because now I'm telling them they have to dial *550 on their VoIP phone, enter the area code and phone number they're going to reach out to. The system will see that and change the outbound caller ID for my staff members to be this 323 phone number. Right, so this is a pull down. You can select any phone number on your account. Right, you give it a name, select the phone number you want to be displayed, and then the rule, right? Or you select the area code, and then click on Save Changes. The Fax Manager, that's included on all accounts. This allows you to see the status of your fax box. So here you can see your inbound faxes, the date, the time, phone number, number of pages you can download. Right, outbound faxes. This lets you get to the individual outbound fax boxes. Now it looks like we haven't had any recent, oh, here we go. So here you can see successful outbound faxes. Again, date, the time, numbers involved, the pages you can download. If you see a failure here, that means we had a problem connecting with the other fax machine. Right? Could be the fax number was busy. Could be there was a disconnect tone while after that initial connection. You can click on this last icon here to look at further details, and the system might have additional details to let you know what happened. Typically, retry is a viable option when it comes to faxing. You can also just dial the number just to make sure it's a valid fax number, right? Because sometimes people give you the wrong number, right? They look, they're lying. Their eyes skipped a page and went to the wrong line. The email to fax logs, this will show you where the system had a problem processing the fax request, right? So it never made it out of the system. You can see the email address used. So for instance, right, our main fax box is set up with the virtualpbx.com domain. So this Gmail address here, right, that failed because they weren't a virtualpbx.com email address. Right, if I click on the little eyeball icon here, it tells me, hey, that user doesn't exist on the account. So that's a quick, easy read. Oh, wrong email address, right? You make someone use their personal email address versus their work email address, right? Here you see the proper format. So this one failed because they probably didn't have that +1. Now you can always click on the little eyeball icon here, and you see, oh, in this case, no valid attachments. That could be they forgot to include an attachment on their email, or they didn't include a PDF or TIFF, right? They included a JPEG instead. Number Manager, this is included. This takes you to your spare number page. Webhooks is plan specific. This allows you to link Dash to other software, right? So like Zapier, for example. This does require some level of programming. To see samples of what we have done, you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code and other things that we have linked to. We also have a webinar on our YouTube page. I believe it's Introduction to Zapier. So it's going to have webhooks as well as how to link Dash to Zapier. You can link to other software. You don't have to link just to Zapier, but Zapier is just fairly easy because it has a lot of other types of software that it links to. So it gives you a wide range to work with. You would want to talk to our sales team if you're interested in adding webhooks to your account, as they have more information about that. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. As an admin, you cannot access anyone's user portal. That doesn't matter because as an admin, you can change anything that you need to. So here, right, this voicemail box is not set up to delete after notification, so the user can see right? Their individual voicemails, they can listen to them, right? Download them. They can choose to delete, mark them for deletion or keep them as new because I need to get back to this person, etc. The call history tab, they can see the history of their calls coming in and out. They can change the date range, right? In case they needed to find a call. Oh wait, this person called me, but I was never able to get a hold of him. They can go search and double check that phone number. This fax tab only works if they have their own fax box. The contact list tab shows you or shows a staff member, right? Other people's extensions, groups, auto attendance, etc. Conference tab, this is where your users would adjust their conference settings. So like their conference PIN number, their participant PIN number, do people join deafened or muted, as well as playing entry and exit tones. When you're in a conference, here you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference call. Also, while in a conference, right, each participant will have their own little box. So you can mute a specific person or kick out a specific person. The Settings and Devices tab, this is where your staff members enable their own call forwarding, right? Put a little check mark, +1 area code and phone number. Save changes, right? They can see the status of their devices. And that is everything. Let's go back to the dashboard. And it looks like I don't have any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. As I mentioned before, we do this every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we do record them, so you can always come back later. Thank you again, and I hope you